Hi, I'm Eric Linask. We're here at Editor's Day in Santa Clara. I'm talking with David Wright from VMware. David, glad you're here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Eric.
So, let's talk about NFV and what's going on, and kind of want to get at what's the appeal for operators around NFV?
Yeah.
Why is there so much attention and conversation around NFV?
Yeah, I think you can really look at it as an evolving process, but there's been about 3 years of work now on network function virtualization, and I think carriers really are focusing in two specific areas. Number one, they would like to bring the benefits they've already seen and achieved around cloud and cloud platforms in their IT environments into their core network. So they're looking at trying to replicate the benefits that they already see and are achieving on their core network, on their IT side, in their core network. Then secondarily, and actually more profoundly, I think they're looking to find a way to restructure their relationships with their vendors. And they're hoping that by implementing cloud architecture in their core networks, they're able then to work with any application provider, any VNF provider, against any hardware that they choose to deploy. And they're hoping that the benefits of NFV will give them the ability to negotiate with their vendors at a new level and to mix and match the best-of-breed applications and VNFs with best-of-breed hardware infrastructure in a new way.
So when you talk about leveraging the benefits of NFV, if you were to ask a carrier about those benefits, what would those benefits be? What is motivating them? What are things motivating them?
Well, that's a great question. I think that it started out a couple of years ago when the ETSI ISG for NFV was born as one of achieving the economies in the core network that they were seeing in IT. To some extent, that had to do with the benefits of hardware price associated with x86 as opposed to proprietary hardware. It had something to do with reduced operating expenses and various other things that would be traditional yardsticks for any cloud environment globally. Over time, I think what's evolved is an assessment that the agility that cloud environments bring to the core network is maybe as or more important than those initial ROI metrics. And by that, I'm talking about the ability to apply just-in-time capacity to a problem, being able to prevent having to pre-build or overbuild your capacity, the ability to mix and match a pool of cloud resources against a set of different problems rather than having to stovepipe capacity against any one problem at any one time. So that increased agility involves things like faster time to market for new services. It involves the ability to apply capacity and elastically expand or contract what's available to a given service at a given time. And it involves the ability to share a common pool of resources across more workloads and more capabilities than you could before.
So I think that that kind of messaging is fairly consistent when you look across the vendor community. Mm-hmm. What is the adoption? What is adoption looking like? We don't hear quite as much from the carrier community. And I get the sense it's not moving quite as quickly as the vendor community would have either liked or anticipated.
Well, it very much depends on where you look. The interesting thing is that not all use cases for NFV are moving forward at the same pace. Mm-hmm. What we see, because we happen to see a wide array of deployments, is that mobile core use cases like IMS, voice over LTE, virtualized EPC are getting into production faster than virtual CPE-based solutions, and there are a variety of reasons for that. I think many carriers have a very strong need to reduce cost and increase agility in their 4G build-outs and really want to take advantage of those solutions and bring them to market quickly, so they push a little faster. But also, I think on the vCPE side, you see carriers struggling with two different problems. One of them is technical. The other one is really, how do I go to market? They face the same thing in trying to sell network as a service that maybe a SaaS ISV would have faced 5 or 10 years ago on the enterprise side. How do I price this? How do I sell this? Et cetera. And those are challenges that will be resolved over time, but they change the pace at which some of these different use cases are moving.
Interesting. So talk to me about VMware's role in the NFV ecosystem.
So I spoke earlier about the fact that one of the prime motivations that carriers have for implementing NFV in the first place is to change the economics of their environment, not just reducing cost, but improving their ability to match what they would consider to be the best service or the best VNF against the hardware infrastructure that they think is most cost effective for their environment, and not really relying on a fully siloed and vertically integrated solution for any one service. So VMware is really focused, and our value add and our differentiator in this space is all about providing that capability. We are by far compliant with more VNFs and more vendors northbound than any other NFV infrastructure or NFVI platform. We also have the widest range of hardware platform providers. So we see ourselves in the platform space. We're not VNF providers. We're not hardware providers. We exist in a space that's required to mix and match those two together in a reliable way. So to that end, our value proposition is the biggest ecosystem of applications against the biggest ecosystem of hardware. And in addition, we're not even forcing vendors to choose or operators to choose which cloud management platform they need to settle on. We will support all of them. So we support OpenStack, VMware Integrated OpenStack. We also support traditional management models like vCloud Director. As containers become more popular in this space, we will be supporting containers. So I'd like to think of us as the NFVI platform, the common platform that allows a carrier to match any workload or any requirement to any hardware infrastructure.
So you talked a little bit about where we might be headed with the industry, with the comment about containerization. Mm-hmm. How do you see NFV and the market in general around it evolving?
Well, I think you're going to see innovation at multiple levels within this environment. And I think really we're in the first innings of what's going to be a full game. It's going to take quite a while to roll out. We're going to see many iterations, many different technologies evolving in this space. But one thing is clear, what worked 3 or 4 years ago or what worked against proprietary hardware is not where application architecture is going to go in the future. So we like to believe that VMware's focus is to provide compatibility in the platform layer for any application architecture that has been or may come to fruition. And to that end, we see containers rising, the rise of microservice architectures for VNF design being significant. We see the need for end-to-end security infrastructures that support that as a major responsibility for platform providers going forward. We also really see the rise of overlay networking within this environment, not just what we do with NSX today on the enterprise side, but end-to-end overlay networking that can add value from the device all the way back to the public cloud as being a really important area of innovation. And then finally, I would say service orchestration in general is a space that is coming together, but still has a lot to go. It's the next generation OSS, service fulfillment, service assurance.
Certainly a very exciting space. Look forward to seeing some of that evolution, and I think you're absolutely right. We are only in the very early stages, and the coming years are going to be not only interesting, but a lot of fun to watch, to see what happens around it. David, thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure.
A pleasure. Thank you, Eric.